Alabama really turned it around in the third quarter versus LSU, and it was really thanks to a simple change in a defensive alignment that allowed for them to rush for more gap integrity. So today's video, I'm gonna highlight 3 plays that show you how they did that, and hopefully I can do more once I get access to the full footage. But we're gonna hop right into it. So this is the third quarter, 12 minutes and 54 seconds left in the game. It's 1st and 10. LSU has the ball. So funny enough, I'm gonna go ahead and say that LSU actually scored on this drive, but Alabama started doing the thing that helped them stop LSU for 3 drives in a row later on by doing a similar thing. So as you can see on this play, LSU has a 4 wide set, running back set to the left of Jayden Daniels. Alabama has 4 linemen on the field, or I should say 4 people directly on the line of scrimmage, not necessarily linemen, 2 linebackers. Alabama is going to rush 5 of them. So Deontay Lawson's coming, 96 is coming, you got 50 on the edge. And so what happens is they fill all of the gaps here. Like every man is accounted for in the LSU offensive line. There's no glaring holes or openings for Jayden Daniels to step up and scramble from. So throughout the first quarter, Jayden Daniels, Alabama would rush, and they weren't quite as disciplined and controlled in what they were doing as he was running around, and that allowed him to escape or step up in the middle and run past. But if you notice on this play, everybody maintains their engagement with the offensive line. Everybody is holding their space, holding the right tackle right outside the C gap. They're holding space in the B gap, holding space in the A gap, and the linebackers actually trying to exploit the gap that's in B as well. So they covered everything up. So Jayden Daniels has no choice but to actually throw this ball. Now you may be wondering, well, it didn't work this time. True, but that's because Jayden Daniels is amazing, by the way, elite talent. Threw this ball on the money, like down the field, with Malachi Moore playing fantastic coverage on the LSU wide receiver Neighbors. In this play, this guy has excellent body control. I don't know how Neighbors like basically wheeled his foot to touch down. Like if you see like the replay in the game, it was insane how he was able to do that, because Malachi Moore's running step for step in line on Neighbors' hip on this play. And in normal cases, in most other cases, that would have been an incompletion. But because Jayden Daniels threw this ball perfectly and Neighbors caught this ball with excellent body control, that's a completion. But like I said, the star of this play, or what I wanted you to see, is that Alabama rushed 5. They maintained all the gaps and didn't leave any openings for Jayden Daniels to escape for a scramble on this play. They really contained the pocket. In the first half, I think they wanted to rush a little bit more, and they tried to spy while rushing. That didn't quite work. In the second half, they did more containment with a spy as well, because you'll see on the next 2 plays, they didn't actually rush 5, but they had Deontay Lawson still spying. So that's actually a good move to go ahead and show you the next play. So this is a little bit later, 2nd and 8 LSU here, later on in the game. I don't remember the timestamp for this one, but LSU's gonna go ahead and snap the ball. And they have 5 people out, tight ends in the middle on the right side in their trips formation, 2 on the left. So basically this is a 5 wide set. Now, mind you, LSU ran the ball on the quarterback draw a couple times earlier in the game doing this. And so Alabama may have been expecting them to run again. But look at what Alabama does defensively at this point. So this actually is a pass this time, but Alabama rushes 4. And if you notice, Deontay Lawson is standing in the middle of the field watching Daniel. So 4 rushers, Deontay Lawson is spying, but look at the rushers. Look at the defensive linemen. They're not getting upfield. They're doing stunts. And they are maintaining their gap integrity. It's actually, I love seeing this. A lot of people focused on the interception, but what caused the interception was the defensive lineman maintaining his gap integrity, seeing the ball come out and tapping it. But I want to call your attention to number 41, and I'm trying to remember who the defensive lineman is down here, 96. What happens is that 41, they do like a typical stunt. 41, which is Courtney Bradshaw, he crashes down on the right tackle and the right guard. And on that play, he then allows number 96, who started an engagement with the right guard, to then loop around. That's how a stunt works. One player comes down, engages the 2 blockers. The other player wraps around and goes to the edge. So what this does is basically 41 occupies the B gap. And this allows 96 to wrap around to the C, which then pulls the right tackle off of him, by the way. And right tackle now has to try to account for 96 coming around the edge. So this does two things simultaneously. It plugs up the gap in the middle to maintain gap integrity, and it prevents there being an opening lane around the right side where Jayden Daniels could potentially scramble to if he was going to scramble there. Simultaneously, while this is going on, sometimes teams do double stunts. Alabama didn't do a double stunt here. They had 92 just occupy the left guard, so he's watching both the B gap on the left side and he's watching the A gap on the left side, and then you have the far left guy or the far right guy on the defense, which is on the left side of the offense. So the left tackle now has to engage. I believe that is Dallas Turner up there. It is. So Dallas Turner jumps up because he's maintaining his gap. Dallas Turner's job is to help with that B gap over there with Justin Boygby, and also watch the outside. So similar to 96 on the other side, 15 is also occupying the tackle, this time the left tackle, and making sure that Jayden Daniels can't get to the outside, but he's not rushing. Earlier in the game, they were rushing up the field and trying to get pressure on Jayden Daniels, and they were trying to let Deontay Lawson do the spy. That wasn't working. So what Alabama did this time was they let their guys maintain the leverage there at the line of scrimmage. And because he was doing this, because he wasn't rushing up the field, Dallas Turner then was able to see the ball come out. He reached up, deflected the ball, and that's what's led to Terrion Arnold getting the ball, this interception, and the turnover now is on the down. So Alabama is doing really well. And I realized I said Bradshaw earlier, I meant Braswell, number 41 for Alabama. The name was just slipping my mind. Now we're going to go on to, and actually I just realized that was in the fourth quarter. That was at the beginning of the fourth quarter. We're going to the last play I'm going to show you, which is, unfortunately, this is the play that Jayden Daniels got hurt, but what's being overshadowed is the great defensive play that Alabama did. So once again, they rushed forward this time. This is 1st and 10, 13 minutes and 1 second left in the fourth quarter. Once again, Jayden Daniels is empty backfield. So he's snapping the ball here. And what's going to happen is that Alabama's going to rush forward. This time, not really a stunt, which is great. What I love about this is that it kind of is based on how I like this concept, because you don't see this a lot. Dallas Turner just beat this guy a little bit too good here. So I'll start with what Dallas Turner did, and we'll talk about the rest. So look at Dallas Turner up there playing basically like an end over there in the end, but he's really like a jack linebacker. He's rushing over there. And so he's taking the left tackle on directly, and Dallas Turner really just rips moves, goes right by the left tackle, and now he has inside pressure on the B gap. And now, if you notice, while Dallas Turner is doing this, the guy who's occupying the left guard, which I think is number 50, he rolls around. I think that's Tim Smith. He rolls around to where the tackle would be to cover the C gap area. So Jayden Daniels can't escape Dallas Turner and get to the outside. So Alabama learned from the first half. What happened in the first half so many times, Alabama defenders get a rush on Jayden Daniels. He escapes. Lanes are broken down. Gap integrity is broken. And then Jayden Daniels will escape to the place where the integrity broke down. So what Alabama's doing is if one guy rushes one way and leaves a lane open, they have the other guy account for what lane is missing. Tim Smith did that this time by looping around to where Dallas Turner would have been accountable for if he maintained that integrity on that left tackle. But Dallas Turner was able to get really pressure here and actually get a hit on Jayden Daniels, which unfortunately led to concussion. But before we get there, look also what's happening on the left side of the defense. You have Braswell, who's occupying the right tackle, and once again, Braswell is not rushing up the field. Not completely, I should say. He's containing. He's stopping Jayden Daniels from just getting an easy wrap around the edge so that he can get a scramble, which Jayden Daniels probably wasn't going to do that because he's throwing the ball. He sees a matchup he wants to take on. But basically, that's out of the play here. And then you have a great job of number 96, I believe, taking on the double team of the center and the right guard. And that worked out really well because he's basically covering the B gap and the A gap here by occupying both of these guys. So what you see is really good rush lane integrity and gap integrity, because even behind all of that, you have a zone defense. So you have Deontay Lawson watching in the middle of the field. So there's a lot happening here. Malachi Moore covers this guy Neighbors down the field, and it ends up being an incompletion. but even more so, it's a hit. It ends up being roughing the passer, so it's something that people were mad about the play. They actually called roughing the passer on Dallas Turner, and this drive continued on, believe it or not. And that's what I actually want to talk about a little bit now that I'm at the end of the video. I just really want to show very quickly what Alabama did differently in the game defensively, and I feel like that's getting overshadowed. People are talking about the thing that happened with Jayden Daniels getting injured and all these other things, but Alabama made some really good adjustments, and the defensive line played really well, and I feel like that's not talked about enough. And so let's talk about this roughing the passer play that's not targeting, and we can talk about why it's not targeting. I'll break it down for you. We'll talk about the rules. So when you're looking at this play, Dallas Turner breaks free on the rush. Jayden Daniels is getting ready to throw the ball. Not even a full second after the ball is released, Dallas Turner hits Jayden Daniels. So that's really hard to argue that, like, you know, that this is like some intentional, I'm coming in to hurt you type of thing, because he's literally coming in to make a hit. Now, what was unnecessary was the way that he ended the tackle, right? He comes in and hits Jayden Daniels. First of all, the ball was gone, so maybe he could have let up a little bit, maybe moved to the side a little bit. It's hard with momentum. I get it, though, because I would like to protect the players, too. So I'm not saying that Jayden Daniels should get hurt. I'm not even advocating that players should do big hits all the time. If you want to have that discussion about maybe we should do more to discourage players from making really, really big or ferocious hits, I'm fine with doing that. But to say that Dallas Turner intentionally tried to hurt Jayden Daniels here, I feel like that's disingenuous. And to say that it's targeting, I feel like not saying it in a negative way, but I think that's ignorance to what the rule actually is. And I'm going to talk about the subjectivity of how that's called, because no matter how you guys may want to talk about it, officiating is very subjective. There are rules that you follow. There are guidelines that tell you what the rule is supposed to be, but how a ref sees it, their own biases or their preconceptions about what that play is supposed to be and what's susceptible for what or what's not, that does impact the play. And that's just a part of being an official. You are making judgment calls. You're not some all-knowing being who doesn't get affected by emotions or past or history or personal experience. Referees do that, so how they're seeing these things really impact it. So let's look at it. Dallas Turner runs in, hits Jayden Daniels, wraps him up, and takes him to the ground after the ball is gone. That's why they call roughing the passer, and I'm okay with that. Roughing the passer is just fine. Call it roughing the passer if you want to do that. Even some people disagree with that. I don't have to go that far. What I am going to dispute is the fact that this is targeting. So I don't think this is targeting. The targeting rule says that you have to leave at the crown of the helmet. By the way, a lot of people don't seem to know what the crown of the helmet is. The crown of the helmet is literally the top. That's the definition that's in the NFL rulebook. That's the definition that's in the NCAA rulebook. It's the top of the head, literally the top. So Dallas Turner would have to do this. He would have to literally have to put his helmet down at the top and hit the player. And the rule says that a player has to launch themselves, meaning that in some cases, like where you leave your feet before you make the tackle, because when people say his feet left the ground after he wrapped Jayden Daniels up and went to the ground. If you start going down at an angle, your feet come up. He didn't jump at Jayden Daniels with his helmet down and with the intentionality to hurt him, or to intentionality, like that's part of the play too, the intention to hurt. So, and then the final part of it too, well, I'll put another nuance. They also added another nuance in the NFL side of it. They said when you're crouching down and you're shooting up, Dallas Turner didn't do any of those type of intentional targeting type of things that people are saying. And then you have to add in the fact that that crown, so the top, not just the face mask area or that forehead area of the helmet, it's the crown, has to be in the neck or head area. If you notice, Dallas Turner's helmet and face are parallel with Jayden Daniels. His head doesn't dip down. When it does, it's to the side like this as he's taking Jayden Daniels down to the ground. So when you add all that up, by the rule, because a lot of people are saying by rule that's targeting, by rule, that's not targeting. But I will say, by the subjectivity of how other people have called this play, that could have been called a targeting, but not by rule. I have seen plays similar to this be called targeting for sure. And I know some people, the more reasonable people, saying we just want consistency. Fine. But I will say it's hard to argue that, like I said, when there's subjectivity in how officials call the plays, which is why I don't get worked up about calls. When they miss calls against Alabama, even in this game, I don't care. Like, you got to play your plays and win the game. And that's not to disregard, the fact that Jayden Daniels got hurt here. What I'm saying is that what's got to happen is that you got to realize that officials are not going to see it the same way as everybody else. Like I said, let me give you a really good example. I'm not saying that this is the case. You can have one official who is an offensive player, and you have one official who's a defensive player. And let's say that official who's an offensive player, in his mind, he's like, I really want to protect quarterbacks. And in his mind, he's always on the lookout for targeting in those type of plays. So this official might be more likely to call anything a targeting, or things that look like targeting. He's very quick to say, I'm going to call it targeting. Whereas a defensive official, let's say he says, I don't really think a lot of things are targeting. I'm going to be very conservative in how I throw those targeting plays. And so he may call significantly less targeting fouls. So when you put all of that into context, there's no way you can expect every official to call the game exactly the way you see it and exactly the same. That's just not going to work. There has to be some other way that maybe we can talk about making things kind of level or more consistent across the board, but you can't take out the subjective element of being a human. These officials are human. They're real people. It doesn't work that way. That's how the game works. But that's why I say this is not targeting. Roughing the passer, completely fine. Whatever. I'm sad that Jayden Daniels got hurt because he's elite. The LSU offense is elite. I love those guys. I made a video about Jayden Daniels back in 2020 when he was, I think, a true sophomore at Arizona State. I'm so glad to see that he proved my take on him right. And I hope to see him do well and hope he gets drafted high in this upcoming draft. But Dallas Turner is not a dirty player. He was not trying to hurt Jayden Daniels. This was not targeting at the end of the day. I don't know if you agree with me or not. You can disagree with me. You can put that in the comments. Let me know. But that's my take on the situation. I really love the adjustments that Alabama made defensively, and I don't think that's targeting. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.